What I am trying to do now is to transform the Democratic Party.
Bernie Sanders has emerged as one of the most popular politicians in the U.S. at this moment. At the same time, a lot of your progressive supporters aren't very happy seeing you out on a unity tour with the DNC. They say this is a party that burned you, that undermined your campaign, that is not moving to the left, that has not learned its lessons from the election. Why waste your time on them?
Okay, I know what happened during my campaign, but I also know what Trump and his extreme right-wing billionaire friends are capable of doing to this country. So what I am trying to do now is to transform the Democratic Party, transform it. And we're having some success. And that is make it into a grassroots party where you come in. You want to come in, you come in. And you go to the meetings. And what's happening in California, progressives are gradually taking over the Democratic Party. We're seeing really good things in many parts of this country. Come on in, fight for a progressive agenda. And that's what I am trying to do now. Now, will I succeed? I can't give you that answer. Maybe I won't. Maybe the resistance is so strong. But I do want to also say to you, as somebody who knows, I think, more about this than anybody in Congress, doing third-party politics is not so easy. And if you think, oh boy, we don't like the Democrats, we're going to start a third party, and wow, in a couple of years, maybe. But that has not been the history of the United States.
I wanted to ask you about that. Your friend, Dr. Cornel West, in addition to people who worked on your campaign, have said, let's leave the DNC. We need to go start this third party, this populist progressive People's Party, and we want Senator Bernie Sanders at the helm.
I love Cornel.
Do you accept the invitation?
No, I don't. Right now, what I am trying to do is to transform the Democratic Party. Now, we will see if we, starting a third party, it is easy to start it. It is a lot more difficult to make it into a strong reality. That's just an historical fact.
I know that a lot of the young people out there are still feeling the burn and they'll follow you wherever
Wrong question. I don't want them to follow me. I want them to follow their own instincts. If you follow me, then tomorrow somebody else comes along. That's not what democracy is about. I was
going to say they'd follow you if you started a new party.
Well,
They're not necessarily happy with the Democratic Party.
I understand, and I appreciate the love and support, and it's mutual. There's nothing that makes me happier. When I go around the country, you're seeing just beautiful young people who are ready to get involved in an unprecedented way. In whatever way that turns out, get involved. It's not a top-down. I don't believe in top-down stuff. I believe in bottom-on-up stuff, people getting involved in whatever way makes sense to them and to their communities.
Based on your long and complicated history in American politics, do you believe that a two-party system is the most viable and effective way to have an American democracy?
No, I don't. But you know what? The problem is we are not a parliamentary system of government. And that's not to say by any means that you can't have three parties. And if you were running in Europe, and your party got 5% of the vote, 5%, not a whole lot, you would have seats in the parliament, depending on the country. In the United States, you get 5% of the vote. That's what you got. It's 5% of the vote. You got nowhere in a hurry. If there are people who think running as an independent, running as a third-party candidate makes sense, do it. But I think right now, where we are with the great danger of Donald Trump and the billionaire class and the reactionary agenda they're up against, I am right now trying, will I be successful? We will see. To transform the Democratic Party in a very fundamental way.
So we have just passed the 100-day mark of Trump's presidency. What has surprised you most about this presidency thus far?
His total hypocrisy. Look, I have dealt with reactionaries who say, look, I want to give tax breaks to billionaires. I want to cut Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, education. I've dealt with those people. But this is a guy who campaigned for president saying, I am a different type of Republican. Vote for me. I'm going to stand with the working class of America. I'm going to take on the establishment. That's what he campaigned on. And 5 minutes after he was elected president, he became the establishment. More billionaires in his administration than any in American history. He told us that he was going to take on Wall Street. Well, he did take on Wall Street. He took them all into his administration. He got the head of Goldman, former president of Goldman Sachs, is now his chief economic advisor. He said that he was going to provide, you remember, health care for everybody. And he supports legislation that would throw 24 million people off of health care, raise premiums for older workers, defund Planned Parenthood, etc. So his dishonesty and his hypocrisy, saying one thing to the people of this country and doing exactly the opposite, I guess, that has kind of shocked me.
Switching gears a little bit now to foreign policy. You are celebrated by progressives as being somebody who was brave in defending Palestinian human rights and criticizing some of Israel's policies, including the Prime Minister. That's not a popular position to take in American policy. It's risky. At the same time, last week, you joined every single U.S. senator in signing a letter to the UN Secretary General saying that the institution is biased against Israel and effectively trying to shield it from criticism.
No. I don't accept that. Look, I didn't write that letter. I signed on to the letter. It's not a letter that I would have written. There are many problems with Israel, and I have been critical and will be critical of a lot of what Israel does. On the other hand, to see Israel attacked over and over again for human rights violations, which may be true, when you have countries like Saudi Arabia or Syria. Saudi Arabia, I'm not quite sure if a woman can even drive a car today, okay? So I think the thrust of that letter is not to say that Israel does not have human rights issues. It does. But to say, how come it's only Israel when you have other countries where women are treated as third-class citizens, where in Egypt, I don't know how many thousands of people are now lingering in jail. So that's the point of that. Not to defend Israel, but to say, why only Israel? You want to talk about human rights? Let's talk about human rights.
Should the UN shield Israel from criticism?
No, of course not.
Okay. This letter also denounces the boycott, divestment, sanctions movement known as BDS. You, in your lifetime, are a longtime proponent of nonviolent protests. This, in the eyes of many Palestinians, is the effective way to get Israel to comply with international law and respect Palestinian human rights. Do you accept that?
No, I don't. I mean, look, I respect people will do what they want to do, but I think, again, our job as a nation is to do everything humanly possible to bring Israel and the Palestinians and the entire Middle East to the degree that we can together. But no, I'm not a supporter of that.
Palestinians will say they've resisted violently, they get punished. They resist non-violently with BDS, they're also punished. June marks 50 years of occupation starting in 1967. We know the occupation has no end in sight. We know that this is a government that doesn't plan on ending it. And talks have failed for a quarter century. What, if not BDS, is left for the Palestinians to do?
Well, what must be done is that the United States of America must have a Middle East policy which is even-handed, all right, which does not simply supply endless amounts of money, military support to Israel, but which treats both sides with respect and dignity and does our best to bring them to the table.
It's increasingly evident that hopes for a two-state solution are almost dead. At the same time, polls among Palestinians in the occupied West Bank and Gaza are showing that they're increasingly in favor of a one-state solution with equal rights for Israelis and Palestinians alike and equal citizenship. Is that something you believe could happen, or is that something you support?
No, I don't. I mean, I think if that happens, then that would be the end of the state of Israel. And I support Israel's right to exist.
Do you think a two-state solution is still viable?
Yes, I think if there is the political will to make it happen and if there is good faith on both sides, I do think it's possible. And I think there has not been good faith, certainly on this Israeli government. And I have my doubts about parts of the Palestinian leadership as well.
Here in the U.S., refugees are a politically divisive issue. We've seen them demonized by a lot of politicians and the public rather than embraced. The Trump administration wants to drastically reduce the number of refugees that they accept, even below Obama numbers, which were criticized as being too low. Do you believe that the U.S. has failed its moral obligations in accepting?
I think the entire world has failed its moral obligations. But I think what the United States, as the most powerful nation on earth, has got to do is do our best to bring people together, to try to hammer out what is enormously difficult. This is not easy stuff. Syria is not easy stuff. Israel-Palestine is not easy stuff. But that's what we've got to try to do.
What would you do if you were president in terms of Syria?
In terms of Syria, what I would do is demand that those countries, like Russia, which are supplying an incredible amount of arms and protection to Syria, stop doing it. Assad is a war criminal. He is killing tens and hundreds of thousands of his own people. And we have got to put pressure on Russia and Iran to stop supporting this war criminal. All right?
Thank you.
Thank you
so
very
much,
much.
Senator.